Hello and welcome to today's video where we'll talk about SQL databases in Android Studio, and we will use such a database to save some data and then display it inside a list view. As always, I will try to explain it the easy way, or as easy as you can with such an application, because you see, even though this is only one picture, the application is a bit more complex than this. You have a list view over here, and this list view will be dynamically generated, and you will be able to add and delete items from it by actually adding and deleting items from a database, because this list view will always be up to date with the information which is contained in a database. So the application will read some user inputs. It will be a product name and a product price, and whether or not this product is in stock. Then when you press the add button, this product will be taken and inserted inside a database and displayed in this list view. And when you select an item and you press delete, that item or product will be deleted from the database and also deleted from this list view, of course, because it will not be displayed anymore. So this is what we'll do. I will try to keep the video as short as possible, even though it's not really easy to keep such a complex video short. So if you have patience and you stay with me until the end of this video, I will go step by step through the several classes that we'll have to create and how to work with the list view, how to work with the database, and how to do all these operations which I have talked about. So without making this intro any longer, let's move to Android Studio so you can see the code and see how it's done. You will start as always by opening Android Studio, and you will create a new project, and that will be an empty activity project for phones and tablets. Once the project has loaded completely, you will see something like this on the screen. You will have two files opened, one main activity Java file, where we will add the main code of our application, and activity main XML file, where we will create the user interface of our app. Here in the left side, we can minimize for now the project folder, and we'll come back to it later when we will create some new classes. But until that time, let's start and create the user interface. Our user interface is now completed, and what I've done, I've just reused the text view. This was the hello world text view, and I've just placed it on top, and we will display here some events that happen in the application. For example, when we add the product to the database or when we delete it and so on. Then we have two edit text boxes. This is for, the first one is for product name and the second is for product price. And when it comes to the type of input, instead, this one I will change. Instead of a text person name, I will just have a plain text input. And for the second, I've chosen to enter numbers. Then we have these two buttons, one for adding, one for deleting from the database for the products. And I just realized I've missed a checkbox because I want to know whether the item is in stock or not. So let's create a bit of room for this. The user interface is now completed. We have this checkbox that will show if the product is not in stock by being checked or not. And the two buttons, adding, removing, and here you cannot see it too well, but this is a list view, and this is going to be dynamically populated with whatever products we add to the database or we delete from the database. It will be displayed here. Okay. So this is the user interface. Now let's go and write the code of this application. Don't forget to save from time to time. And we will begin by creating a new Java class. And for this, you go under app folder, you have Java, you have your package name, and this is your main activity here. So click on the package name, you right click, and then you have in this menu the new option, Java class. You give a name, I say products. So this will be my products. Okay, and this is going to be just a simple Java class that will define what the product should be. And we have something like this. We have an integer that will show the product ID. We have a string that will show the product name. We have another integer that will be the price of a product. And then we have a Boolean variable, which will be either true or false if the product is or not in stock. We'll just keep it simple. We don't care about how many items we have in stock, just to prove the concept. And of course, we need to have a constructor. You right-click, you generate, you say constructor, you select all 4 variables, and you say OK. This is generated automatically. Then you right-click again, and you will generate some getters and setters for all the variables. There's no need to change anything. You can leave them as they are. And because it's very popular and we will use it, we need to get everything to string. It's very useful and we might need this later on. So we just say generate. And this is to string. What I usually do, because I don't want to have these products over here. Okay, I'll just delete a part of it. So I only have the ID, name, price, and the other attributes. Now you can save everything, and this is the first part done. This is your products Java class, and all the products that we add to our list will be of this type. Okay, now we need to work with the database. And for this, we'll right-click. So I repeat, here under Application Java Package Name, you right-click, you go to New, you select the Java class, and this will be our database support. So I call it database support class. And what's interesting about this one, we need to extend SQLite. So this will extend SQLite helper, and you need to import the proper class. Okay, this has been dealt with. However, you can see there is a problem with this red underlining. So let's click and see what the deal is. It says implement methods. So what we need to implement, we need to implement an onCreate and onUpgrade method. So these two have to be present in our class. We have created them, however, we still have a red underlining. So let's see what the deal is this time. We need to create a constructor matching super, so for matching the super class. And we have 3 types of constructors to choose from. Let's go with the first one that takes a context, a string, a factory, cursor, and a version. Okay, we'll go with this one. And of course, we don't want to pass all these parameters. We want to keep everything as simple as we can. So let's delete the last 3 of them. And again, I repeat, this will be the database, the factory cursor, and the integer variable for the version. So we can delete this. And here, we can just give a name for all of this. For the name, we'll just give the name of the database. I will call it products database. For factory, we'll give nothing, we'll just give it a null. And when it comes to version, let's say version 1, this should be just fine. Okay, this takes care of the constructor. We have no error anymore. We can move on and write the code for the onCreate method. For the onUpgrade, we will not write anything. So in case there will be a version update of this application, you will have some code over here, but for our example, we stick to the onCreate and this should be enough. Because this is going to be working with our database, let's think about our database and what we will have there. So this is what our database looks like. We have some products, and these products have an ID, then they have a name, they have a price, and if they are in stock. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and these are all included in one table. Now, for us not to write all the names over and over again, let's declare some constants. So we will use them, and it's going to make it easier for us to write all the commands. I've declared these constants, and these are for the table. So this is the name of the table, product table, and then you have the product ID, name, price, and stock. These are the columns. Don't forget to delete this part over here. This was just to show you how the table will look with the ID, the name, the price, and the stock. Okay, we can delete this. Let's go inside the onCreate and write the first command. I should increase the table size, the font size a little bit for you to see better. What we have here is the first part of onCreate method. And what we actually do, we create a table. So we can write this command in a string and then place the string inside here. This is the database, the SQL command. If you are experienced with SQL, then you will recognize the syntax. If you are not experienced, then it might be new to you. But to just make sure you have these spaces properly set. For example, as you can see here, we have create table. Then you have a space. You have the name of the table. Then you have another space, and you have a comma. Then it starts with the colon, the first one, which is the colon product ID, which is going to be an integer, and this will be the primary key and will be auto-incremented. And it goes in the same type with the column name, which is a text, the column price, which is an integer, and then you have the stock, which is a Boolean. So this will create our table. Let's move on. We can jump over the onUpdate, and we will create the code that will be executed when we want to add something, an item to the database. So we say public Boolean, and this will be add product. And we'll pass it one product. Okay, we have a typo. So this is one product. I think it's going to be faster for me to write the code and then explain what's happening there. Okay, so this is the code associated with adding a new product to the database. So what we receive when we call this method, we receive a product that we want to add, and the entire method will return a Boolean variable, either true for the operation being successful or false if the operation did not succeed. And you start by opening this database, and you will get a writable database, so you open it to write. Then you need to use something called content values, and you use these content values to put some information And you might recognize this syntax from intents. When you would put extra, you would put something. When you pass from one activity to the other and you want to pass some variables, some information along, you would put extra some information in a key value pair. Only this time you use these content values and you take the column product name, for example, and you get from the product the name to be inserted there. So instead of passing a key and a value, you just pass the destination and the value. You can regard it as such. And then when you finish indicating what you need to take and pass where, you take the database and you insert inside the product table, and you have this CV, this content values, and you pass them to the table. Okay, there is something that you might use. This is a local variable. Its type long is generated automatically. And for example, when you press here, and then if this one will be equal to -1, this means that the operation did not succeed. In this case, you can return a false value. So the entire method will return false. However, if this is different from -1 and we have some information being inserted in the table, but some position, then we can return true. We don't care what's the position where we insert the information. We just care that it was inserted and the operation was successful. So that's all you need to do for adding an item. Let's move to deleting product from the database. Okay, so we have something similar to what happened in the previous method. So I wanted this time to show you. Once you have your database and you open it so you can write it, get writable database, then you prepare your command, and this will be delete from the product table where the column matches the ID of the product. So we search by ID, we find the product, and then we delete it from this table. And we want to pass this command. So you write the code, and then if you just click over here and you go to the yellow light bulb, it says introduce local variable, and you can choose this cursor, and then you can use it in this way. Basically, what this means, you have your cursor which will move to first. If you want to delete something and you pass the ID of the product to be deleted, and that ID is found in the table, so it can be deleted, then the cursor will move to the first found item, which is actually the one that will be deleted. So you can pass through, meaning that you found the product and you deleted it. But if the cursor doesn't move to first, so basically it doesn't move anywhere because the product ID was not found in the table, so you couldn't delete it, then of course it will return false. So this is very simple for deleting something from the database. The last thing what we want to do is to display all the information inside the database. So we want to pass it to a list, and this is how you will do that. Okay, so this should be all that we have to do for displaying all the items. And this is a bit more complex when it comes to this application and the methods we have inside, but let me just explain it and you'll see it's not a big deal. First, we have a public list products get all. Basically what this is, we have a public method which will return this type, a list of products, and the products is this class of ours. So it's a list of items that will be built according to these specifications. And this is get all, the name of our method. So we begin by having this product list, and this will be a new list of products. I mean, these items that we have described and presented in this class. So we'll create a new array list of such items. Then you have to prepare your command, which is select everything from this table because we want to display everything. We have our database. This time we open, instead of a writable, we open a readable database. Then we have our cursor that will jump to first or second or last or whatever position we need. And what we do, we just take the product ID, and from the cursor that will jump to the first item it finds, we will take the information from column 0. And we know that column 0 is the ID of the product. So we can get an integer from the position of the cursor. We get the integer, we place it inside this product ID. Then we create a string, we call it product name, and we take a string from column number 2. So make sure you know how your table looks and what information or what type of data is on every column, because otherwise this will crash your application. So I know for a fact that my column 0 will be integer, product ID. I know for a fact that column 1 will be a string, column 2 will be an integer again, and column 3 will be a Boolean value. So I repeat, this is very important. Test, try, have a look, what is your database and what you have on each column, what type of data. Then you have a new product and you pass these parameters from above and you create such a product and you place it inside the list. And you populate this way the list one by one with all the items that you have in your database. So you do this, you repeat this loop again and again and again until your, or as while as your cursor will move to the next item in your database. When there's no more item, this will not be executed anymore. So you can close the cursor, close the database, and you can return this list populated with all the items that you have read from your database. And that's all that there is to it. Okay, with these two being prepared, the Java class for the products and the Java class for the database support, we can go to main activity and see what code we put here. Let me remind you, we have to create variables for all these controls on the user interface. We have a text view, we have to edit text, we have a checkbox, 2 buttons, and a list view. So let's create some variables. What we have until this point, we have a variable for the text view that we have in the user interface. We have 2 variables for the product and for the price edit text. One for the checkbox, we have the one for the list view. I didn't change the names too much, so if I only have one text view or one list view, I just leave the name as it is. Here where I have more edit text, we have 2 of them. I cannot say edit text 1 and 2. I just gave it a name which suggests what that control would do, which is hold the name or the price of the product. Then I have an array adapter that I will use so I can construct the list. Then I have the database support. This is this class over here, and we create an instance of this. And another one for the products. This will be selected products. When we select one of these to delete, for example, we will save this information over here. This should be enough for the variables. Let's move to the onCreate, and this time, because I have so many brackets, let me just write which is which. This will be from the onCreate, and this will be from the main. Probably it's not the most elegant solution, and some will say, well, if you click on it, it will show you where it comes from. But for me, it's easier to see them in a glance. Anyway, let's see what we do here. This part over here, I don't think requires any more explanations. We just find by ID each of the controls from the user interface, and we associate it with one of the variables we have declared above. So this is very simple stuff, no need to explain it any further. Let's go to the more interesting part. Once we have this variable declared, we have to take the information from the database and display it. So when you open the application, you already have the information displayed, so populated in this list view. So this should be done by default. And for this, we'll write a code I think I should explain what I've done so far, because there was a small error, which you will have as well if you followed exactly what I've done. So I want to clarify this before we move on. So once we have the controls referenced as above, you have to create a new database support, and this database support will be created in the context of this main activity. So to begin with, I had this red underlined and I couldn't really know why. It was just telling me that this constructor was somehow wrong. So I went back to the database support and I've noticed that the constructor that I had here, remember I've deleted a part of it. By mistake, I left another argument which was for the name of the database. So instead of having only the context passed as an argument, I had another one left. I didn't pay attention, so it was here, saying the name of the database. So I've just deleted that because I only want to pass the context when I want to call this constructor. So the rest, I just want to leave as they are, just hard-coded. So this is something that you'll have to do as well, just to delete the part that says database or whatever it was before. We have to go in the main activity and I will show you the rest. We have array adapter, and we need an array adapter because this is very important when you work with lists. When you work with this array adapter, you have to arrange these products. These products is what you will put in your list. And you have the context of this application, which you pass as parameter. Then you have this part over here, which will describe how your list will look. And because you want to keep things simple, you take from Android resources, layouts, and you take this simple list item 1. So this is the simplest way you can make a list look. It's just a plain line of code. You can choose from other types of displaying your list in other modes, but I think this is enough to display the point. And then after the comma, you have to indicate the source of the information, and the source of the information will be this getAll method from the database support class. So if you go to the database support class, you have this getAll method. This will be called. All right, so let's go back over here. Now let's see how we delete and how we add an item. And for this, we have to go to the outside of the onCreate method, and we'll create a new method. We'll call it public void onClick add. This will be executed when you press the add button. Let me just say this is for add, and we can create right now the second method, and this will be for deleting. And what we've done, we started by creating a product which was null to begin with, so it was empty, it had nothing. Then we created a string, and inside this string called product name, we took from the edit text product, we took the text and we converted it to string, of course. Then for the product price, we took the content of the edit text price. So we took that content, we made it to string, and then that string, we parse it to an integer so we can save it inside this variable. Then for the product stock, the Boolean, we just checked to see if the checkbox is checked or not, so we have a true or false value. Then our product will be created passing all the above as parameters, except for the ID, which you remember in the database, it was auto-incremented. So for the rest, we just pass them. And in this way, we have a product with these characteristics, with these values being created. However, in case any of these values is wrong, or is, for example, we are expecting an integer and we're passing something else, or whatever other anomaly happens, we put everything inside a try-catch block, so our application will not crash, it will just throw an exception. And this will be the exception that will be created in case something unexpected happens, in which case we'll display a toast message to the user. And if you don't know how to use these text messages, you just write toast.makeText, you give the context of the application, you have the text being displayed, the time duration, this is the long duration, so it's about 4 seconds or so, and then you just say show. So once you've done this, you have to actually add this information, the product, to a database. And for this, you say database support. So this is an instance of our database. And you call the add product method, passing the product to be added as parameter. And as you remember, this returns a Boolean variable. So this added to database is the Boolean variable, which will be either true if the product has been added successfully to the database, or false if this didn't happen. So if the product was not added correctly, this will be false, the Boolean variable. The last thing, we go to the text view and we say product added to database, and this will be true or false, depending on the result of the add operation above. And just for keeping the application always updated, we have this array adapter, which this time will get all the information in the database, all the new information with the new product added this time, and it will display in the list view. So this takes care of the adding part. Okay, let's see when we want to delete what we actually do. As you can see, the part about deleting an item is very fast to write, so very short. It's basically just having a new instance of a database support in the context of this activity. Then you call the delete product method and you pass the selected product that you want to delete. So you select the product from the list view and you pass it to be deleted. Then you just say in the text view that the product has been deleted from the database, and then you update the list view to be displayed without the item that you have just deleted. The only problem is that this selected product you don't know because you've never selected it. So how can you select a product and send it to be deleted? Now, this will take care of sending and deleting. So sending the item to the database and deleting it. However, how you select it? And for this, let's go back here on top in the onCreate method. I have left some space here when we will where we will write the code. And for this, we'll write something as follows. What you do, you take the list view and you set an OnItemClick listener. And this will be a new adapter view, OnItemClick listener. And this part of the code is generated automatically with the method which needs to be over. And it's called OnItemClick. And as you can see here, the very important part is the parent and the position, because our selected product will be parent.getItemAtPosition, and this is the position. So when you click inside the list view, you click on some item and that item has a position. This is the position indicated by this integer, and then the parent is the list view. Only problem is that we want to have the selected product, which is a product of this type with ID, name, price, and so on. And we are clicking on an item inside the list view. But the thing is that we know for a fact that inside that list, we have products as the one that we want to associate, to assign. This is why we cast products, and whatever we take, we know it's a product, we place it inside this selected product. So this variable now holds our product that we clicked on, so we can extract from the selected product the name and the price, and we can load this inside the edit text. So we populate the fields with the information of the item we clicked on. The same we do with the checkbox. So with this being done, when we click on an item, we automatically get the position, the name, the price, if it's in stock or not. We update this information in the user interface, and if we choose to press the delete button, then the selected button is already prepared to be deleted. So hopefully we didn't miss any comma, any point, anything like that, what we'll see in a second. Let me just save everything, and I will select a virtual device, this Pixel phone. I press run and let's see how it goes. The application has now loaded in the emulator, and as you can see, there is nothing to display in the list view. Let's start to add some products. We'll say this is AAA. It has a price of 1, 2, 3. It is in stock, and we will add it. I should increase a bit so you can see the first product being added. Luckily, everything works so far. Then you say A, B, C. We have the same price. We add, actually, let's put something with an R. We add one more and something with AT. So we have to add some products. Let's add another product which we will delete. And this is not in stock. Okay, here you can see that you have the list with whatever you have in the database. And if you select one product, or you select another, or you select this one, you have the information being updated. So when you select this, you can see even the checkbox will update. Let's say you want to delete the last one. You press delete, and now it's gone from the database. Of course, it remains here because it was populated, so this information is still remembered, but when it comes back to stock, you can add it. And now you have it here displayed. Okay, this is too large. Anyway, I hope you have learned something new today. You've seen how to use a database, an SQL database in Android Studio. You've seen how to populate a dynamic list view. I hope this is useful for you. I hope you have learned something new today. And if you have questions, suggestions, anything to share with myself or with the community, feel free to leave a comment. If not, until we meet in the next video, keep practicing and keep learning. Take care. See you next time.